The guys who are making the decisions on brand building and communication are all dated, and people who are actually consuming it are youngsters. I find it damn bizarre when people have these sharp conversations on geography and borders and stuff like that. The people, people sit in meetings and tell me, Tarunji, I have to create a piece of communication for digital. What is digital? There's nothing called digital. It's a medium. Like the way you have TV, you have radio, you have print, you have digital.
Right.
Yeah. No culture can be saved because that culture is closed. Then you are creating fundamentalism. That's very, very different. Correct? And fundamentalism has absolutely no role in the evolving society. Spirituality does not pay your bills. Spirituality makes you a better human being. But you still have to go on a living there. Most of these are in India, not world over, in India, are 0-1 arguments. This is the way it is or it is the way. No, that's not the way it is. You can be an economically sound and a very rich spiritual nation, like how China is, how Japan is. Japan is a highly spiritual nation. So if you actually look at the Indian political landscape, correct, there are two views currently. There's one whole right-wing view and there's a center-of-middle view, correct? I'm talking about as of today. Medium can't decide your existence. This whole day badgering television, Godi media, I think it is stupid. That is the way it is going to be. When you are in the government, you did the same thing. How is it different that they are doing? In the consumer brand space, nearly every category has one mega brand, correct?
Okay.
And that brand actually defines the narrative of that category. A Nike will do it for shoes and fitness. Coke will do it for soft drinks. A Cadbury will do it for chocolates. So there will be one. Hero motorcycles will do it for two-wheelers. A Maruti Suzuki will do it for cars. These are all Tagada top-end brands, correct? They own the category. A Fevicol will do it for that sticking adhesive, yeah, Fevikwik and Fevicol. They own the category and they define the narrative of that category. Now, this is the reality, Hemant. Modi is the category leader of politics today. I know a guy who travels 2 to 3,000 kilometers by road every week on work.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know him personally.
At what age?
And he's a mining guy. He's a
Actually.
mining guy. He must be in his late 40s, early 50s.
Welcome, Tarunji. Welcome once again to this Journey Dialogues. It's been a while that we spoke last.
Hi, how are you?
Good, good, good. So Tarunji, I mean, one of the things that I found fascinating over the years, I've known you for quite some time, almost, 15, 16 years. And I've seen your journey as a professional leader in some of the leading agencies in India. And then I've seen your journey independently, running your own wonderful agency and marketing advisory. And also the world has seen a lot of shifts in terms of the politics of the day or the era, business of the day in the era, society culture of the day in the era. So, and I know that you are somebody who doesn't hold thoughts. You don't want to be politically correct. You want to put the word out as you feel and think, not to hurt anyone, but just that's your point of view, and you want to invite interesting conversation. So I'm really thankful to you that you're creating this space along with me, and we could have some healthy exchange.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love you, Hemant. You know that. So I'm.
Yeah.
I love what you do. So yeah, let's talk.
Great. So Tarunji, I think because you're a brand guy, and I don't want to brand you as a brand guy because you're more than the brand guy, but brand is something that comes very natural to you. How are you seeing, if we take the rubric of politics, economics, and society, and when I use the word society, I'm using culture largely. How do you see, what are the similarities and differences you see how politics is building brand and business is building brand and culture is getting branded, or brands are appealing to them, brands are appealing to, so a business brand appealing to politics, a political brand appealing to business, and both of them trying to appeal to a culture, or how are you seeing this evolving? I'm sure you reflect on some of these things.
See, at the core of all this, Hemant, is how people consume data or communication. I don't want to use the word data. I want to use the word communication. Correct. If you look at the landscape over the last 25, 30 years, things have changed very, very fast. Correct. Uh, but the basic process of building a brand hasn't changed. I think people get extremely confused between information and brand building, or information and information that is tactical versus storytelling that helps build brands. They're two very, very different things. When you start uh, diffusing the line, then your communication as a politician, as a brand, as an individual becomes extremely tactical. Therefore, for you to sustain any kind of relationship with your consumer becomes extremely difficult, because a consumer in a day consumes between 200 to 250 brands. When you look at his daily from morning toothpaste to the time he goes to sleep at night, there are about 200 to 250 brands he interacts with, whether it's the police, it's a corporation. I'm not talking of just consuming brands, I'm talking of life brands. You've got your digital platforms, you've got your television brands, clothing brands. In the middle of all that, whether you're a politician or you're a consuming brand, what is your story? Why am I engaged with you? Why am I listening to you? What are you telling me that will help me uh, help me build interest in you? The whole attention span of people has become so less now that you are not able to, if you're not able to engage with someone in 10, 15, 20 seconds, you've lost the process, you've lost the plot completely. Nobody has time to listen to your nonsense anymore, because they have an overload of information. In the world we live in, whether it is a guy on the street or a guy in any college or a corporate executive, they are just not able to deal with the amount of information they have. And because they have so much of information, they are not able to take sharp decisions. Uh, when you have limited amount of information, you take a decision, correct? And then right or wrong, you learn to live with it. But when you have so much of information, you are so confused because one, you don't have the experience to filter the data. Two, you just don't realize what is right and wrong. Communication, people may say whatever they want to say, Hemant. End of the day is gut. Okay, and gut is a accumulation of all your experiences. So you may, through all kinds of research and process, get something that is correct, but your gut may still say this is wrong. And if it is wrong, it is actually wrong. You cannot run with it. Correct. Uh, and I know in my life, at least two or three very, very big campaigns actually bombed in research. But our gut said no, they'll work. And they worked. Because no amount of scientific structuring of information data can help you take a decision which is emotional. And communication is highly emotional. Today, after 20, 25 years, people still talk about the Vodafone pug, the little dog running behind that girl, correct? They still talk about Mera Wala Pink of Asian Paints. They still talk about Gattu of Asian Paints. They talk about What an Idea Surgery. They talk about Jagore. They talk about Feel Like God. These are all huge campaigns built on extremely strong emotional insight. Because technology has done one thing and China has done another thing, which is they have actually democratized technology. So there's no differentiator left anymore. How do you create a differentiator in cement? How do you create a differentiator in telecom? You cannot create. I find it stupid when I see advertising by large brands which are trying to explain to me how their data is better than someone else's data. I mean, I just find it so ridiculous because it is such an intangible. How do you explain it? It's not like thumbs up. You're tasting something and saying, no, it's better than that. There's no taste here. It's experience. How do you quantify experience? You can't quantify experience because my filter of experience is very different from your filter of experience. A lot of people don't like Indigo Airlines. Yeah, I love Indigo Airlines. I love Indigo Airlines because I don't care what they do. They get me from point A to point B on time. I don't know. I don't care what they feed. I am not interested in all that. That's not what I fly for. I want to fly from point A to point B on time. That's my single filter. Now, if that is your filter, then Indigo is the world's best airline. But if your filter is food, all are nonsense, then it's not the world's best airline. So it also, you need to figure out the context of what you're judging something on. Uh, so and I think at the middle of all this, the guys who are making the decisions on brand building and communication are all dated, and people who are actually consuming it are youngsters. I mean, I struggle to figure out or explain to people in the marketing world that this is how consumers are behaving today because they just don't get it. They just don't get it. India is still far behind. Sorry, not ahead, behind. We have a long way to go. We are still seeing extremely basic communication that is going on. Signals in the WhatsApps and the telegrams, correct? The world of communication has gone very, very deep. They trigger emotional behaviors, they trigger all kinds of things. Cops operate there, brands operate there. Uh, India has still not got there yet. It will take time. We are still in the growth phase. We are not in the penetration phase yet. We are still going wide. We are not going deep yet. Though I must say, as a political party, I think BJP is going quite deep in the technology space. They are really, really deep. They get it. They've got. I don't know what they've got, but they've got their act together at least uh, better than the rest. So consuming, managing, and amplifying data becomes very, very important. A lot of brands. Let me give you an example. Okay, there's this guy in Nagpur. He's called Dolly Chaiwala. Okay, Dolly Chaiwala. He makes chai. He sells chai. Uh, he's a social media rage. He was one of the invitees, I think, for the Ambani wedding. If I'm not too sure, from what I saw on social media, correct? In the span of 3 months, from being a chaiwala, he became a celebrity chaiwala. I was watching India Today Conclave 2 days back. Watching meaning I got a feed on my reels, and there's a guy called Ori in Bombay, who is a social media influencer. That's what I'm told. Correct. He was one of the guys on that platform, on an India Today Conclave platform. 5 years back, I wouldn't have imagined that would ever happen. 5 years back, there would have been some boring politicians, industrialists sitting over there. Correct? So everything is changing and it's changing very, very fast. So either you're running with it or you're getting irrelevant. And there's nothing called big left anymore. There's nothing called big left anymore because now people are completely happy dealing with regional and sub-regional brands. They are not fussed about being. I mean, look at clothing. Look at, except I think a few categories where the national brands still have a role to play. Most of the categories, it's all become regional, sub-regional. I mean, it is really, really crazy. You go to places like Gujarat, Jammu Kashmir, Rajasthan, South Tamil Nadu. You see so many regional brands. They have nothing to do with the national footprint. They are very happy in their little world. They do well there. They sell very well there. And they are not over ambitious. They're okay with their little turnover.
Great, great, Tarunji. In fact, I have a few submissions basis what I heard, and then follow-up question to what you just said. So, for your submission is, interestingly, you mentioned that there is this information overload, and if brands get tactical all the time and they're not building something very long term or deep in some sense over a period of time, there is a challenge. I'm reminded of a systems thinker, Russell Akoff, um, who had this interesting distinction between information, data, knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. And he said that, along this spectrum, very few people are able to get to understanding and wisdom. A lot of people keep playing with information, data, information, and knowledge. And it just really, while that has a place, but when we're trying to build long-term, relationships or even some stability amongst each other, there is this need for wisdom and understanding of it, which comes with experience.
Absolutely.
And it could only come from the word that you mentioned, which is gut. And I would invoke another thinker, Antonio Damasio, who's a neuroscientist, and another interesting thinker from New York Stern School of Business, Jonathan Haidt. In fact, he said that when we come across something as an information or a person, the first thing that speaks from our side is our intuition to them, not our rational, mind, which is trying to. Intuition comes online first, and then we try to rationalize those intuitions and emotions or stories in some sense. So totally in sync with the way you framed it, Tarunji. Um, my follow up on what you just mentioned was, if we were to believe that humanity has actually progressed from being those hunter gatherers, moving from one place to another, and then probably discovering, inventing agriculture, and then settling down in some sense, and then trying to build communities, and then smaller communities becoming bigger, and then regions and state and nation. And now in the last 200 years, we've seen the rise of national and global order kind of thing, or a move towards that. Uh, and then there was this move for standardization of some sorts, mass or some sort. So, but what I hear from you is people are becoming comfortable with. Uh, Let me frame it this way. So we saw this arc moving from absolutely local, from hunter gatherer or proximal, to something which is global. And now, do you see a completely new era where there'll be a mix of global and regional and local?
So build on your hunter gatherer. Okay, you hunted and gathered food because that was a scarcity. Correct. So you traveled, you moved around, you set up camps, you ate. It got over, you left. That has not changed. That has not changed at all. There it was food. Here it is economic. Correct. So if you go to a city like Bangalore, or you go to a city like Pune, you come to a city like Hyderabad, there are no locals here. There are hardly any locals here. They don't speak the local language. They don't understand the local language. You go to Bangalore, everyone speaks either in English or Hindi. Nobody speaks Kannada. You come to Hyderabad, nobody speaks Telugu. You go to speak Pune, nobody speaks Marathi. Yeah, there are a few do that, but broadly nobody does. It's a Hindi or an English speaking city. Why? Because people have gathered there to earn a living. They now don't gather for food; they gather for economic reasons. Correct. So all the geographical. Look at America. Yeah, America is filled with Indians. Look at UK. UK is full of Punjabis and Indians. What hunter gatherer there? That's all for economic reasons. And the society has no problem with it. As long as you don't mess with the fabric of a society, nobody has any problem. Everyone is very happy living their life. I find it damn bizarre when people have these sharp conversations on geography and borders and stuff like that. I think most of them are smoking weed. They don't know what they're talking. Correct. And countries who have very strong enforced laws on these things like economy and borders are all tanking. Yeah. Look at Dubai. Dubai grows nothing. Dubai has nothing. They don't have proper rain. Forget anything else. Correct. It's the most prosperous city in the world. Why? Because they've just opened it up. They've realized that people need to earn a living, live nicely, live gracefully, and have happy families. That's the ecosystem they've created. The whole world moves there and lives there. Singapore, same story. So this whole concept of restricted movement, restricted this, I will restrict that, I will restrict this, they don't work. That time is over. And if you want to take your country backward into, say, animal civilization, hunter-gatherer civilization, then I think you need leaders who think like that. Stupid. But in the new age, you need leaders who are extremely open, who are very, very accommodating. Yeah, you maintain your basic fabric, uh, and then you get on with life. Like in America, you're given all kinds of perks and citizenships, but you're not given certain rights. You can't vote. You can't do this. You can't. That's fine. I'm not dying to go and vote over there. Ireland, I believe Ireland is now opening up. People are traveling to Ireland lock, stock, and barrel. Now, these are countries that are going to prosper because they are getting in fresh ideas, fresh people, fresh minds, new ways of thinking. An Indian thinks very different from an Irish. An Indian carries his thinking there, correct? A Dutch comes to India and starts working here. You learn a lot from Dutch. So you need to open up. You can't be so closed. And brands globally have realized this. Globally have realized this of integrating societies and geographies. Most of their communication will be completely multicolored, multi-local. So it's very, very. India is evolving. India is still not there. India is evolving. India will learn. India will start consuming properly, uh, and then things will start falling into place. It's a cycle. I mean, there is nothing you can do about it. That's how you learn. The people, people sit in meetings and tell me, Tarunji, I have to create a piece of communication for digital. What is digital? There's nothing called digital. It's a medium. Like the way you have TV, you have radio, you have print, you have digital. Content still has to be beautiful. It has to be good looking. It has to be insightful. You can't create nonsense. That's a problem.
Right. I don't have a follow-up. In fact, I'm just trying to process what you said. Um, you made an interesting observation that uh, you do see a lot of moves by a lot of countries in terms of what we call as protectionism, in some sense, or there is something traditional about the region or the geography. There's something that needs to be preserved in some sense. Also, there is another. So that's the conservative angle or the tradition angle, preserving angle. There's another angle that uh, comes on the back of a lot of populist movements in a lot of countries, which is that a lot of people have been left behind in terms of the economic growth. The economic growth, not by anybody's design, and I don't want to comment on there, but hasn't been equal for all. So you do see a lot of populist movement happening across the world, asserting itself against migration, asserting itself against globalization. Uh, how do you deal with something like this, or how do you process something like this?
They get isolated. See, you can't stop this, yeah. I mean, what are you trying to do? You can't stop it. See, you want to conserve natural resources. You want to conserve forest. You want to conserve habitat. You want to conserve a lot of good things. Create laws. Who's stopping you? Nobody is stopping you. Nobody takes a knife and scribbles on the pyramids like they scribble all over our Indian monuments. Correct? Uh, you don't see dirty palm stains on any of those monuments. You see them here. So it's not the question. See, problem is that we take extreme views about all these things.
Right.
Yeah, no culture can be saved because that culture is closed. Then you are creating fundamentalism. That's very, very different, correct? And fundamentalism has absolutely no role in the evolving society. You ask a 19-year-old person, 19-year-old kid, what is fundamentalism? He won't get it. He doesn't understand what God is. He doesn't understand. They don't understand all these things.
Right.
I mean, if you look at most of Europe, they're struggling to get people into the church. The churches there are empty. Why? Because kids have moved on. Spiritualism, faith has a role to play, but it is not the central to our life. Spirituality does not pay your bills. Spirituality makes you a better human being, but you still have to go on a living there.
Right.
It's very complex, Hemant. Problem is people make it very linear. They don't understand that all these things are interlinked. You can't isolate one from the other. You want your nation to prosper, it will only prosper economically. It cannot prosper religiously. But will religion be part of it? If it will be part of it. It will be the moral compass, do's and don'ts. Correct. But finally, whether it is uh, Latin America, North America, Canada, Europe, Britain, these countries are prospering because they're economically sound. Their per capita income is huge. The government plays a big role in providing them with safety. There are most countries where you want to quit your job after 5 years, study for 3 years, and come back. They let you do that. Do they let you do that in India? No. You leave a job, you're gone. So I just think most of these are in India, not world over. In India, are 0-1 arguments. This is the way it is, or it is the way. No, that's not the way it is. You can be an economically sound and a very rich spiritual nation, like how China is, how Japan is. Japan is a highly spiritual nation. They are so. I can't even tell you how spiritual they are. Everything is customary. Everything is traditional. They respect their king. It's very, very beautiful, and they're the top two nations in the world. So if someone tells me it's a 0-1 argument, I think they are stupid.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
So if you actually look at the Indian political landscape, correct, there are two views currently. There's one whole right-wing view and there's a center-of-middle view. Correct. I'm talking of as of today.
Correct.
I'm not talking of 10 years back and 5 years ahead. I'm talking of as of today. The only differentiator in my view between the two is technology. One gets it, one just doesn't get it. And the one who's not getting it is suffering. I think forget what a lot of things about Modi ji. I'm not commenting about most of what he does. But I think one thing he does extremely well is his adaptation to change in technology. Whether he's doing it or his people are doing it, or I don't know who's doing it, correct? 2 days back or 3 days back, someone sent me a link of a live translator. Like if I'm talking to you, you can hear me in Hindi if you want, correct? 2 days back, Modi ji used it in Tamil Nadu. While the world is discovering what's happening, he's already executing it. So there is a bunch of people sitting with him and telling him what to do. He goes to a particular area and he'll give you a speech relevant to that area, which means somebody is there not talking to people but mapping the whole digital space. What are the conversations? They're listening. They are figuring out what's going on there. So he makes most of his speeches extremely relevant and localized. And these are things that most people don't get. As people who understand a little bit of communication, we get it, what he's doing. But a normal politician on the street is still living in denial, and which is why they're losing. They're not losing because they're bad. They're losing because they're just stupid and they're arrogant and they don't want to listen. That era of politics of 70s, 80s, and 90s is over. Modi ji has completely changed everything. He's changed everything. And it is not about what he says. It is about how he says it and where he says it.
Right. Right.
They sit in all your WhatsApp groups, yeah. How do they get there? It's a question you have to ask yourself. They are in family groups, they are in friend groups, they are everywhere. Content just keeps coming. And if you don't get it, then how will you get there?
Right. So there is this one aspect, tying it back to the first things that you laid out, was about the era of information overload, the importance of emotions, the importance of stories, the importance of going deep and not wide. When we put all of this together, and suppose you still get to a point or a crossroad of a brand promise versus brand delivery. You may sell your story, you may say the right things, it definitely you feel connected by it. At the end of the day, it's also about brand delivery, and and the word brand delivery here is for a politics, for a politician or a party. The brand delivery is very different from a business having product and the and the delivery around it. Uh, are you seeing some shifts, or what are the similarities and differences you see in terms of the promise versus delivery of brands, let's say a decade or a couple of decades back and now? Are you seeing some similarities or
So
differences?
the thing is, Hemant, that in the consumer space, uh, there is a washing powder, there's a promise, and the promise has to be delivered. You may tell stories around it, but end of the day, if you can't wash your clothes clean, then there's no point. Nobody buy it. The tea has to taste strong. That's the way it is. Correct. But in politics, in India, not globally, in India, when the establishment says something and does not stand by it, okay, let's for example speak about the 15 lakhs. Yeah, they promised 15 lakhs into everyone's account. It's now 10 years. It hasn't happened yet. Correct. The opposition technologically is so bad, is not able to deliver this in people's minds. It's very, I mean, I don't know how to explain this to you, but it's as simple as that. I can go on giving you examples. Correct. I just give you one example. So in the world of politics, you need to figure out promise versus delivery mechanism. And if the delivery is not happening, what is your strategy to amplify that and tell the world at large that this was a commitment and it hasn't happened? So what they do, the current establishment, is that to cover their shortcomings, they create activities every week. So those activities keep the world busy. And because the machine is so good, it keeps everyone happy and lubricated on that particular activity.
And yet there would be some kind of a thinking around this, Tarunji, is that you could only run this. So let's say there are stories, emotions, promises, and there is delivery. Only to some extent you can drive this engine,
Yeah,
right?
I
At the end of
absolutely.
the day, the rubber has to hit the road, right?
I'll give you an example. Yeah, Hemant. Nokia was India's biggest brand,
Yeah.
95, 98% market share. Where is it today? It's gone. Correct. But the point I'm making is, it is just not difficult to displace a leader. It is not difficult, but you need to have a plan in place, and you need to have an extremely strong story to tell.
Isn't there fundamentally some kind of difference between, let's say, a business brand or a product brand, which is a business B2B or a B2C, but a government to consumer or a government to civilian brand? Uh, because I think there is at least a larger story of a free market, in the sense willing buyer, willing seller, and the transactions are pretty transparent. If you don't like it, you don't need to vote and wait for 5 years for the brand to just take off from your purchase list. You can just do it right away. But here there are fundamental differences. It's not an open market, free market kind of situation. There is a 5 year window. I don't know. I'm just constructing. Maybe
No,
this
no, what you're
doesn't.
saying is correct. What you're saying is
Yeah.
correct. Correct. Now, the beauty of, say, Indian democracy, let's forget the rest of the world. America is once in 4 years, India is once in 5 years. Yeah. Once in 5 years, you're given the choice to make. The problem is because of information overload, your choices are not governed by the way you think. If you want to buy a mobile phone, you will check with two people and then decide what is correct for you. Correct? Or you want to go and dine in a restaurant, you don't ask 85 people. You ask, you may ask two friends of yours and then go. Correct? In the political world, it's not like that. Especially the last 10 years in India. The establishment has got a system by when they overload you with information. So you don't know what the shortcomings are. You just don't know. Because they just don't let you know that. They ensure that they keep you informed, or rather keep you charged up with something or other every 10 days. And it's a very well organized plan. You cannot dispute it. There is no way you can dispute it. The problem is the opposition. Your competing brands are not able to deal with it.
Yeah.
They're still in their old era.
they also say that we are in some sort of post-truth era. You know, your truth is your truth and my truth is my truth, and then everybody is just discovering their own truth. And also because of the overload of the information, it is also difficult to ascertain the truth of any statement. So the challenge that so let's imagine. I mean, we were to let's look at anybody who's in the at the helm right now. You know, whichever political party is. The How do you establish the truth of a statement that this promise is being made and it will be delivered, or this was delivered and these. So let's say for hypothetically, if there was an AI engine that could look at all the promises made by all the politicians of a political party, and it could map it to all the data points of all the
How difficult
deliveries.
is that?
Sorry,
How difficult is that?
I don't think. I mean, with the kind of talent that is there in
It's
the
not
world,
difficult at all.
it's not
Yeah, I think
difficult.
you're answering the question.
Yeah.
The problem is that if you want to dislodge a brand, whether it is a political brand or it is a consumer brand or whatever brand it is, you can dislodge it with better logic and better content. You cannot dislodge it with anything apart from that.
It's so brilliant. I remember having a conversation with Sutapa Banerjee. She's on the board of Godrej and Manappuram. And during the conversation, she invoked an interesting anecdote from Obama's time. Apparently, there was some kind of a shootout at some location in America, and Obama gave a particular comment. That comment to some political party felt apologetic, and there were a lot of articles ran against Obama. Obama's team worked overnight, and the next day again, Obama came up and gave a comment. In that comment was purely talking about X number of Asians hold this post. Ex Muslims are serving officers. Ex Muslims. Suddenly, he was talking data. And then, in fact, the research was on day one when Obama made comment, the number of researches on Google search were a lot about the hate kind of thing. The second day when Obama made the comment about the data, the researches were about the verification of the data. The research just exploded on the verification of the data. And suddenly when they had data, which is your point, if you have the right mechanism and if you give people the right data, I mean, people do searches, right? Everybody's searching the net all the time. You're searching for friend, you're searching for content, you're searching for data. So this comes natural to people. They could search and find out whether what you're saying is true or false. Uh, the only problem that we could encounter is, again, is there anything objective left in the world? Now I know I'm I it, this comment itself might draw a lot of flack. On one side, you have science, which talks about laws of nature, which has repeatability and reproducibility. So I do an experiment here in Bombay, you do an experiment there in Hyderabad. We could get almost similar results, so long as it is physics closer to chemistry. But the moment we move towards biology and social systems, things get a little murky. The objectivity starts getting uh, loaded with emotions and stories. So the very stories and emotions that drive us towards decision making are also the stories that might blind us. And I think that's the era that we are entered into, and I think people are struggling to find out how do we navigate this. Do you think about these things, or what's coming up for you around this?
No, no, that's the real world we live in. See, that's the real world we live in. Obama is a great example. Okay, Obama as a brand had everything negative about him for him to be the president of America. If there's one person who could not be a president of America, it was Obama. He was not born there. His ancestors from Africa. He's black. Uh, Everything is wrong about him. Correct. But what Obama understood, and I think it's an institution, is the art of communicating. Yeah, he knew exactly what to tell whom, how to say what he needs to say, when should he punch, what should be the content. I think Obama was far ahead on his communication skills, far ahead. He could navigate a whole nation's emotion towards him. They had, I think, 4 or 5 shootouts during Obama's time in schools. Correct. Uh, he managed them so well. It looked like these things happen; they shouldn't happen. Rather than it becoming a black versus white issue, Jew versus is it none of that. None of that. He went to Middle East and preached them about Islam. I mean, there's a very famous speech of Obama, okay, in one of those Middle East conferences. Why would anyone listen to him? It is the way he structures it. Content has to be structured because people don't have time. I have to hold your attention. If I'm not able to hold your attention, I lose you. And Obama knew the trick.
Somebody sent me a video of Prashant Kishor, and I think he was mentioning essentially four things that BJP is perhaps getting right or getting better at. I may not recall exactly. I'll punch it in the edits, but I think broadly they were about getting the machinery right. The machinery is really working, and it's difficult to replicate this kind of commitment because this machinery would require commitment. It won't happen overnight. You can't just build it because you want it. The second is, I think what he was mentioning is Labharti, which is the government scheme, is really helping a lot of people on ground. There is a reality to that as well. The third is obviously there is the narrative around the individual who seems to be like a decisive leader, who doesn't care about a lot of things, who's decisive, who takes his own decision. And of course, there is the ancient aspect of what they stand for. Something which is very culturally there in the collective psyche of the society. And Prashant's point was that unless a party is able to crack two or three of these, they won't get ahead. Now, I don't know whether it's right or wrong. He's just building some kind of a variable structure for somebody to think like. What's your? Do you want to comment on something like this?
So yeah, see, it's like this. Let me make a point slightly differently. Correct. Hero Motorcycle sells a bike called Splendor. Okay, Splendor is that fill it, shut it, forget it. Yeah, it gives you 100 kilometers a liter. Now, if you want to launch a bike, that should be your last competition. You cannot launch another mileage bike because mileage is owned by Hero, Splendor. There's no point you trying to tell me that my mileage is better than your mileage. Everyone has tried it. Bajaj has tried it, TVS has tried it, and they failed. Yeah. So Bajaj doesn't get into mileage anymore. They only talk about experience. Yeah. I'm just trying to paint a picture for you.
Correct.
What Prashant is saying is no brainer. I mean, it's what he's saying is there's no rocket science in it. I may agree or may not agree with him on a lot of things. But what I definitely think that the competition should not do is try to go down the religious path. Because that path you cannot win. That is gone to BJP. So let's keep that aside for a moment. I'll give you another. Let's forget BJP for the moment. BJP is a very established, well-oiled, superbly run machine. So there's no point. It's a no-brainer. Rahul Gandhi has walked from Kashmir to Kanyakumari. Now he's done from Mizoram to Bombay. That's about 10,000 kilometers. Correct? Hemant, in your friend circle, out of the 10 friends you meet, tell me how many of them will still say Rahul Gandhi is a good prime minister material?
I think they have challenges of having Rahul as a prime minister. Yeah. They have challenges.
No, I'm saying out of 10, what's your guess?
Maybe so. Let's say 2 or 3 of them might still say.
Okay, and not because seven will not agree. Correct?
Yeah, and that is not because they don't want him to be. It's just that I don't think they see him as to be.
The problem is there. It's a communication problem.
Yeah.
To walk 10,000 kilometers, you need serious amount of energy and guts.
Absolutely.
You need serious amount of commitment. You need serious amount of everything.
Absolutely.
We can't walk 5 kilometers in the morning. He walked 10,000 kilometers. He's met people. He's walked the talk. Now, please explain to me, where is the problem? The problem is not Rahul Gandhi. We keep pinning the problem on Rahul Gandhi. It is not Rahul Gandhi. The problem is that what he's been doing has not been communicated properly. His story has not been delivered, like the Gujarat story of Modi. Yeah, the Gujarat model. Neither you know what it is, nor I know what it is. Correct? But there is a perception that he has created magic there. Therefore, he'll create magic for India. The Gujarat model story has been sold fantastically well. That's that is the failure of the current guys who are trying to challenge him. They're just not able to tell their story.
Yeah, I am with you. I mean, if I even recall the number of, but okay, look at it from another angle, and I am so let's parse this particular argument from two standpoint. What his colleagues, his party workers are doing or not doing, and the other is what is the system allowing or disallowing its peddling of. Now there are arguments on both the sides. There are cases where you can make a case that अच्छा क्या कर रहे हो बताओ मेरे को पोस्टर बताओ डिजिटल भेजो मेरे पास भेजो चलो तो I'm sure you will. I mean, a person, a perceptive person like you could easily dismiss some of those ways in which they could be communicating because it doesn't come across as a thought out kind of or a coherent kind of narrative that they're trying to build. At least I have not seen, and I'm just a very small person. So there's the argument of the communication, the messengers, but also the medium, the constraints of the medium. If the medium, and now I mean you could always argue that there could be an apologetic argument against the medium. Medium has been captured by the establishment, or medium is overloaded by the money machinery that is trying to propel a particular kind of narrative. Uh, One can keep talking about it, but at the end of the day, the ground reality is things are as they are. They aren't moving. They haven't moved in 10 years. In terms of the narrative, not shifting in the other direction. It's going exceedingly more and more in one direction. At least that's something that I perceive. I may be wrong.
No, you can't. See, I just don't understand what is the big fuss about medium. Okay, I'm a brand builder. I am told that I have to launch a brand, and in my media mix, I don't have television. In my media mix, I don't have television. I only have two mediums. I have digital and I have radio. Can I do it? Yeah, I can do it. Any guy who done a little bit of brand building will tell you he can do it.
And I think that's where creative challenge also comes in.
Everything, content creation, formats, it's very, very complicated. I'm just keeping it very simple for you, correct?
Sure.
Medium can't decide your existence. This whole day badgering television, Godi media, I think it is stupid. That is the way it is going to be. When you were in the government, you did the same thing. How is it different that they are doing? Is it not? I mean, that's the way it is world over, yeah. That's the rule of the jungle. But in 14, when Modi came to power, social media wasn't so powerful. In 24, you have social media which is more powerful than television. Ravish Kumar has more following than most TV channels has. Correct? Now, if
He just crossed
that's the way,
8.9
huh?
million. He's closing on 9 million, I think.
Yeah, crazy. I saw the figures yesterday.
Yeah.
Now, Ravish is one of them. Like Ravish, there are so many of them who are doing their own thing. Correct? Now, you can't go on. I mean, it gets boring after a while. See, I'll tell you what, Hemant. Tendulkar is the world's greatest batsman. There's nobody greater than Tendulkar. Tendulkar made 10,000 runs playing three shots. Three shots. He will not play the fourth shot. He had only three shots. So if you have a limitation, you need to decide what your limitation and make that your strength. A Virat Kohli plays 3 or 4 shots or 2 shots. And these are guys who scored 8,000, 10,000. I mean, there are people in cricket who play all the shots but get no runs. These guys have reduced their margin of error to such a small level that to get them out is damn difficult because they don't do most of the stuff. They don't give you a chance to get out. If the opposition party knows they have no television, they don't have television. Why are you whining about it?
Correct. Correct.
Just assume that you have only one medium, which is social media. I heard Rahul Gandhi 2 days back saying even social media is controlled. You can't control social media. Who's giving him that information? Who's feeding him that information? Which is wrong.
Are there similarities or differences in the how consumer brand space is reflecting on the political brand space? Are you seeing that, or are there differences fundamentally?
No, see, in the consumer brand space, nearly every category has one mega brand, correct? And
Okay.
that brand actually defines the narrative of that category. A Nike will do it for shoes and fitness. Coke will do it for soft drinks. A Cadbury will do it for chocolates. So there will be one. Hero motorcycles will do it for two wheelers. A Maruti Suzuki will do it for cars. These are all Tagada top end brands, correct? They own the category. A Fevicol will do it for that sticking adhesive, yeah, Feviquick and Fevicol. They own the category and they define the narrative of that category. Now, this is the reality, Hemant. Modi is the category leader of politics today. He is defining the narrative of the political world space. Correct? He decides who says what. He decides how they have to say it. He will provide the stimulus and he will get a response. That is how he operates. He knows exactly what to say for these people to respond. Yeah. But if you look at most good invasions world over, yeah. If you look at Genghis Khan, for instance, or his son, I think nephew was a much bigger. What was his name? Whatever his name was, correct? Kabuli Khan. Genghis Khan's nephew was Kabuli Khan, who was a much bigger invader than Genghis Khan. He went all the way till Rome. He was so big. Yeah, he used local warlords to bring down large empires. You understand? So if you want to bring down Modi, you can't bring down Modi with another Modi. Rahul Gandhi cannot be a Modi. That is a no-brainer. That's a stupid battle to fight. So you need to create a Kabuli Khan kind of an ecosystem where you create enough warlords who will help you win a lot of small battles so that you win the big battle.
Right. So long we have been talking about an opponent, the strengthening of the opponent or the opponent not getting it right from the current dispensation. Let's turn the table and see how and what can be done to make the existing dispensation more accountable, more transparent, and more better if there is space for that. And uh, if they could, because ultimately, if you just take a step back, I think I don't think we are quarreling about. Uh, I think overall we want the nation to prosper. We want people to be uh, happier more times, be provided with basic utilities, opportunities, sense of closing the gap between promise and delivery across all the spectrum. If you want that kind of nation and more, uh, irrespective of who's at the helm, how do we hold also the helm accountable? Do you have any thoughts about that? Or how do we? And I don't want to come from the space of being an opponent always. How do we strengthen them so that they move in the right direction also? So ultimately we want the nation to be better, civilization to be better.
So I'll tell you my theory on this. Okay, it's a little radical, but I'll tell you my theory on this. One of the big problems for promises not being delivered is when the political establishment has brute powers, yeah, brute majorities. They tend to do things, stupid things, and it's nothing to do with this current establishment. That's the way it is. Yeah, Indira Gandhi did it, Rajiv Gandhi did it. Now Modi is doing it. The golden era of Indian politics, in my view, is 91 when Narasimha Rao became the prime minister. Manmohan Singh was a finance minister. I think India's trajectory changed as a nation, economically, socially, and everything, because it was a government of many pieces. They knew that they had to deliver to survive, and they knew that if they don't deliver, they will go. You get it? So you I think in a democratic system, it also works against you to have brute majorities.
Yeah, so what you're saying is when you have everything to lose, you behave differently. When you have nothing to lose, you behave differently.
Absolutely, absolutely. When you have no fear of losing. Like I remember Tendulkar's famous line, and I will never forget it in my life. He says, "Whenever I go out to bat, even if I'm batting on 100, I assume I'm on zero. So for me, the next run is the first run of my innings.
The
And
beginner's
every innings
mind.
for me, huh?
Go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, because he doesn't want to lose. He's got the fear of failure. He doesn't want to fail. You must understand why are these people so great? Because they do things which are very, very simple. They keep it limited. It's very, very nice.
Reminds me of the beginner's mind. There is a particular Eastern philosophy of always having a beginner's mind rather
Yeah,
than,
yeah.
caught up in habits and biases. Interesting. So yeah, here we are. I think we covered quite a landscape: hunter-gatherer, politics, opponent, current dispensation, brands, consumer brands, social media, technology, wide versus deep, the information overload, emotion, stories. Anything that you want to add here as a parting stuff, and then we can always resume and have more such dialogues. What is okay? I have a couple of curiosities. What has been some of your biggest belief shifts in the last 10 years? Because you've gone from professional to an entrepreneur. Um, and as an entrepreneur, you've been also doing a lot of experiments, which you may or may not be, sharing with people at large. But I know that you're trying to help a lot of people who are serious in their political fortunes and business fortunes and cultural fortunes. So, what has been some of your biggest belief shifts that you can share with us?
I think the one of the big things that in the last 10 years or 8, 10 years that I really enjoy is, you know, till about 8, 10, 12, 14, people wanted to operate in the safe zones. I want to be in a safe zone, correct? Uh, People don't care anymore. They earlier people work for an EMI. I have to work the month so I can pay my EMI, so I can live happily. It's all gone now. And thanks to COVID, geography has become completely irrelevant. So anyone can sit anywhere and work. I know so many youngsters who are working out of coffee shops, who are setting up companies, who are running small shops. Uh, it's a very, very fast-paced, uh, vibrant ecosystem. The problem here is not the ecosystem. The problem here is the establishment doesn't get it. The gap between what this ecosystem wants and what that establishment wants to offer are two very different things. They're still busy launching trains, but nobody wants to travel. Mobile phone, geography, it's all completely changed. Why are you building so many airports? Nobody wants to travel. The roads have become fantastic. People are going by roads. People are just going by road. Why do you build so many airports? Who's going to land there? 80
Right.
airports, 100. See, you must understand, Hemant. Those guys at the leadership level of this country are busy creating infrastructure which is not relevant. But the world at large, which is the ecosystem, is doing their own thing. I know a guy who travels 2 to 3,000 kilometers by road every week on work.
Wow.
Yeah, I know
Wow.
him personally,
At what age? This
and
is
he's a mining guy. He's a
actually,
mining guy. He must be in his late 40s, early 50s, and he's damn
wow.
cool about it.
Wow.
He says, मैं ट्रेन एयरपोर्ट वेयरपोर्ट जाता ही नहीं हूँ तरुण जी, काम करता हूँ, गाड़ी में बैठ के निकल जाता हूँ.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
And because cars are so good now, cars have become so good, roads have become so good, you can do 300, 400 kilometers a day. Uh, yeah, you can do about 500 kilometers a day with no problem.
Right.
And the distance between two important cities is not more than that. Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, just taking this and everything that you shared, I'm reminded of another interesting framing called the Moloch problem. A
Mhm.
Moloch problem essentially talks about that when you try to optimize a few variables in a system, by definition, you'll be sub-optimizing something else, and that may come back to bite you at some point. Uh, while we are all gung ho about technology adoption, we are all gung ho about moving into, all kinds of freedom to work, wherever you want to work from. We're okay with the idea of breaking walls and not being so protectionist about it. Or one is talking about uh, growth and a whole lot of things, promise versus delivery kind of thing. Amidst all of this, what are the things that when you sit down with yourself, or you find them extremely concerning for our civilization and culture and humanity as such? Are there a few things that cross your mind very often that you're very concerned about?
I just think one of the things that really troubles me all the time is the casualness in our civilization. I think everything is reduced to a lot of slapstick, and that I think is will hurt the generations to come. The social protocols, the ethical protocols, life protocols, lies. A lot of people think uh, a lie said 8 times is a truth. A lie is a lie. It's whatever how many more times you say it, correct? And however you say it, or whoever you get to say it for you, it is still a lie, correct? Now these all come from leadership, the kind of people who are leading us, governing us, basic values. These are very important things. Whole of Europe is so beautiful is because they still stick to these values. They really stick to these values. And I think India, because of evolving so fast, we tend to take them easily, which is not correct at all. Your moral and ethical values are the core of your civilization. If you lose those, nothing else matters. Nothing else really matters. Then you'll fall. What happened to Egypt? It will fall. It will
Right.
fall.
Right. No, I'm completely with you. Just I cannot do away with the habit of always quoting some people that I've read. But in what you just said about Egypt, there is an interesting researcher called Joseph Tenter. He's a complexity researcher, and he's written a book on the collapse of civilizations. And I think he makes an interesting point that at some point when you have civilization, so any civilization, it grows in its complexity over a period of
Yeah,
time. It's non-linear, but its problem solving ability, if its problem solving ability diminishes over a period of time, it will collapse under its own weight.
absolutely.
And that is where promise versus delivery comes in, because people end up promising more than they can deliver,
Absolutely.
and problems don't get solved, and it comes back to bite.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So on that parting note, Tarunji, I think wonderful, wonderful exchanging with you as always.
I
And
hope it was useful. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I did
yes,
enjoy myself.
I did tremendously, and we'll put this out soon, and we'll do one, or we'll keep doing such dialogues often. Thank you so
I
much.
always have time for you, Hemant. You know that.
Thank you so much. Thank you.